So before he robbed the rich and gave to the poor, he was downright a badass. Robin Hood. Yeah, there's no subtext. Okay, so it's been 19 years since we've seen a Robin Hood movie. Or 17. Yeah, 17. And let's face it was just a matter of time before we saw a remake of the story of Robin Hood. But the director of Gladiator gives it to us. But keep in mind, this Robin Hood is an origin story, so that whole rob from the rich and give to the poor thing, that doesn't really go down in this movie. But I'm pretty sure it's saved for a sequel. Now, what I really liked about this version is pretty much what I can guarantee a lot of people are going to hate about this version. That's a much different take on the characters. I mean, let's face it, we all know the story of Robin Hood, so when you're all out there thinking, yeah, okay, I've seen Prince of Thieves, I know exactly how the story's going to play out, yeah, you should probably think again. This Robin Hood takes everything you think you know about Robin Hood from seeing that Costner movie and takes a shit in your front yard. In a good way. I mean, you see the characters that you remember from Prince of Thieves, but it's a totally different take on them. And I, for one, found that refreshing. I mean, at a point early on in the movie, it was clear that I did not know how this movie was going to play out anymore. I mean, and that's awesome. I was in new territory now. I mean, for one, the Russell Crowe Robin Hood isn't that true blue white knight servant of King Richard that you remember him being. I mean, the guy gets home from the Crusades and he just wants to go live his life, and then he just runs into some bullshit. Yeah, and Maximus Meridius just isn't having that. But there's kind of more to it than that. I just can't tell you about it. But I mean, how this guy becomes the Robin Hood is really cool to see, and it's not all cut and dry like, I'm home! My father's dead. No! I shall avenge him. And I swear it. On my own blood, and why do I have a watch in like the 2nd century? Yeah, the angle that Ridley Scott comes from in this movie makes for a much cooler backstory to Robin Hood. I mean, honestly, simply speaking, if you liked Kingdom of Heaven and you want to see that style applied to the Robin Hood story, there's no real reason why you shouldn't like this movie. But it doesn't concentrate on Robin Hood's friends as much as I would have wanted it to, but it does concentrate on Robin Hood, which is kind of the point. And it does touch heavily on the politics of running a bankrupt country from King Richard's crusade, and a country divided from its new douchey king. I personally thought the story was really well thought out, and although it doesn't touch on the whole rob from the rich and give to the poor thing that people really know Robin Hood for, that's pretty much set up for the sequel, I thought it was great. I mean, by the end of this movie, you realize that the story of Robin Hood's just too big for one movie. And how badass would that be to have this sweet war epic Robin Hood trilogy all Ridley Scott style? Tell me that wouldn't be awesome. So personally, for me, Robin Hood was the stuff that medieval political war epics should be made of. So go check it out. It was medieval badass.